The Stone Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone. Today, I'm going to go through my 16th annual International Men's and Women's Best and Worst Dressed list. This is a tradition that I picked up from the late Mr. Blackwell. Here to help me break it down is my co-host, the editor-in-chief of Slingshot.News, Troy Smith.
Well, Roger, as always, it's an honor to be back with you in the Stone Zone, and I just want to wish you and your beautiful wife a happy new year. Welcome to 2025.
That's a good-looking tie you got there, Troy.
Well, thank you very much, Roger. A compliment from you means the world in that department. And I'm, truth be told, Roger, when I heard that we're going to be going through your best and worst dress list today, I was actually really excited because this is my favorite thing. And my particular favorite are the worst dressed people on the list. Can you tell us at home, are you just kind of running through your mind all the time when you see people dressed on television and whatnot? Are you constantly adding and subtracting people to the list? How do you come up with this list annually, something that's become so anticipated every year?
Well, it's becoming harder and harder, Troy, because the truth is fewer and fewer people in the world really care about how they're dressed. Sometimes I wonder if they've ever even looked in the mirror before they leave the house. But let's launch into it. I'm going to need your advice here along the way. So on New Year's Day, I returned tradition for the 16th year, and I posted my international best and worst dressed list. See, I undertook this tradition when the late Mr. Blackwell, who was a Hollywood columnist and produced his own list every year for 48 straight years, passed away in 2008. Now, I published no list in 2020 because, well, I was gagged from all public communication by a federal judge. And then I published no list for 2021 because, well, my wife had just been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, for which I'm happy to report, through the grace of Jesus Christ, she's in total remission. So a year later, Mrs. Stone is healthy and stronger now more than ever. 2024 has certainly brought us many curveballs, politically, socially, culturally, and of course, sartorially. But before we begin, I think it's important to remind everyone that this list is not about politics. This is 100% about style. Troy, as you will see, there are liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats on my list. Once again, we must note that fashion is fleeting, while style is timeless and enduring. In other words, skirts may go up or they may go down. Neckties could become wider or thinner. But let's face it, the double-breasted navy blue blazer with gold military buttons will always be in style. The little black cocktail dress will always look smashing. A seersucker suit is always appropriate between Memorial Day and Labor Day. As we addressed in last year's installment, this transgender sideshow has blurred many people's understanding of what is true style and just what an absolute dumpster fire masquerading as iconic or groundbreaking or daring can be. Yes, those in the public eye will often take risks when stepping into the limelight, but let us not confuse taking a risk with the equivalent of dressing like a hobo on Skid Row. Now, I've made this point in the past, but I feel it's necessary to make it again in this age of sartorial error. Just as you do not order fish in a steakhouse, You shouldn't wear a jean jacket to a wedding. You wouldn't show up in a three-piece suit to a bowling alley. Workout clothes are for the gym and not the mall. It's amazing how many people don't get this simple rule, Troy, which is people should dress appropriately for the activity that they're about to engage in. In the past, we've made it a point to highlight those who have shown us that they not only know style, but adhere to it on a daily basis. It is why we created the Lifetime Achievement category in order to create room for the up and comers. So this year, without fail, we are unveiling a new Icon Award for those who continue to wow us with their sartorial splendor. Style, unlike fashion, is timeless. And so we begin. First, let me address those in that Hall of Fame Style Icon Award section. These are people who have appeared so many years on my list that I had to move them to iconic permanent status. They include White House former economic advisor Larry Kudlow, the man who quarterbacked Donald Trump's comeback of the American economy, now over there at Fox Business. Mike Smerconish of CNN, proving again that our list is not political. Presidential daughter Ivanka Trump, NBC's Josh Mankiewicz, rocker Mark Ronson, New York PR wizard Audrey Gelman. They all hold this status. But now, to these inductees, we add our first Hall of Fame style icons. And here are the greats. First on our list, Tucker Carlson. Now, he can be fly fishing or hosting his immensely popular and now totally independent broadcast, appearing at the Republican National Convention, or just out on the town. Tucker is a man for all occasions. Appropriately dressed for the occasion at hand, check. Properly fitted and tailored, check. Mixing a conservative approach with a tie and shirt or other adornment that show a little personality, check. Yes, he leans into that waspy end of the style spear. That's okay. He also makes it work. You can tell that he hasn't spent any time whatsoever thinking about what he's going to wear. He is certainly in the Ivy tradition. So now it's time to recognize Tucker Carlson as an icon. What can you say about Melania Trump? Honored on the list in previous years, she joins the style icon category. America has not had a more stylish, chic, cultured, or well-dressed First Lady since Jackie Kennedy. With the second inauguration of her husband close at hand, everyone's wondering what she will wear and how she will outdo Jackie O's powder blue ensemble from 2017. One thing is for sure, she will not miss the mark, and she will wow the world yet again. And with her class and tasteful nod to the iconic and stylish women of the past, she still sets an example for the women of today and tomorrow. If you saw the outfits she wore in Africa or when she visited India, you wonder why she has never appeared on the cover of Vogue magazine. Could it be politics, Troy? Of course, there is then King Charles, whether it's Savile Row or Old Burlington, the reigning monarch refuses to have the paparazzi bird dog him in anything but the very best. And that's the role of a monarch, to look the part. We talk about dressing for the occasion, and occasionally His Highness always knows exactly what to do. Now we move again, continue with our lifetime achievement, adding to that category. And I have to mention, yes, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This bulldog attorney and heir to the Kennedy clan has kept his family's famous look en vogue. Notorious for his commitment to healthy living and exercise after once struggling, by his own admission, with an addiction, he has a build that can fill out a suit. but he doesn't make mistakes so many professional athletes do with shoddy tailoring or loud jackets and patterns or colors. It has fallen to a homage to his late family members that he favors those narrow ties from the 1960s. If you ask me, JFK and RFK would be proud. Then there is Her Royal Highness, Charlene, the Princess of Monaco. Uh, Her Royal Highness has spent decades attracting attention for her innovative, diverse, and stunning style, very similar to the late Princess Diana. She's appeared before on our best dressed list, but has earned herself a fast track to the Lifetime Achievement Award due to her splendid cutout jumpsuit seen at the Monte Carlo Television Festival. Now we move into the best dressed category. No, Sal Greco, don't blow your brains out. Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, is on the list. Now he's dealing with a federal indictment, angling for a pardon from President elect Donald Trump, and was denied public matching funds for his upcoming reelection bid. But remember, this list is not about politics, it's about style. Like any true dandy, that does not faze him. He uses his timeless Windsor knot and widespread collars, which remains one of his most consistent and clear messages to the public. His tailoring and sartorial acumen are always on point. Adams has also widely embraced proper form-fitting tailoring and never allows his patterns to clash. He is without any question the best dressed mayor of the Big Apple since Bo James himself, Mayor Jimmy Walker. You know, Troy, recently I had occasion to meet Sylvester Stallone at President Trump's palatial home and private club Mar-a-Lago, right there in Palm Beach. He was impeccably attired in a sophisticated double-breasted suit. Now, I inquired about his perfectly tailored suit, and he told me that he had had it custom made for his role in Paramount's The Tulsa King. I don't know if you've caught that series, Troy, but it's outstanding. This caused me to go online and notice that, well, Sly Stallone is always smartly dressed. He has more than earned his spot on this year's best dressed list. Kylie Keough, the granddaughter of Elvis Presley and star of the hit shows actually like The Terminal List, Daisy Jones, and The Six, has thankfully not been co-opted by a Hollywood wardrobe mistress. She's probably one of the few celebrities who did not attend the Met Gala in something that looked like a blind person had stitched it together during a bad acid trip. Now, here's one you're going to like, Troy. Stephen A. Smith. This veteran sportscaster and ESPN analyst, Stephen A. Smith, has always had impeccable yearly sartorial style. The man has personality on air, which nobody can argue, but he also lets it show in his wardrobe. His wardrobe is always notable, but it is never loud or sharp. This is Stephen A. Smith's first year on the list, but I'm confident that he'll keep entertaining us with his commentary and with his well-tailored suits for years to come. Then, Troy, there's Danny Glover. Now, Childish Gambino is top rate if you've seen it. I will admit, having seen Mystery Train, King Tubby, and CG's Redbone, they were staples in the Stone household over the holiday weekend. But he may not like my longtime friend, incoming President Donald Trump. But again, this list is not about politics. It's about style. His New Jack City tailoring on his suits is something any man of style can truly appreciate. It's tough to pull off a loosely fitting but properly tailored jacket on a small frame. Glover gets an A plus for this and for not falling into the insanity of what people sometimes expect on the red carpet. Then there's Zendara. Zendaya, pardon me. She's a returning favorite, back again on my international best and worst dressed list. I contemplated entering this musician turned starlet into the Lifetime Achievement Award, perhaps next year. But like a good wine, Zendaya's style gets better and better each year. So why not at least one more year on our best dressed category? Last year, she embraced pink and pastels. This year, she's been all over the map, but in the very best way. There is no color, cut, or design that this lady cannot pull off. Jamie Dornan. Uh, Anthropoid is by far my favorite flick of all of his, although many of them know him as Christian Grey in the film adaptation of 50 Shades of Grey. He's a rugby fanatic and a charitable giver, so you would expect him to start slipping sartorially. But he doesn't. This Irish-born actor mixes tweeds and his native-born style with aplomb, and it works every time. This, by the way, is his first inclusion on the Best Dressed category. My friend Greg Kelly from Newsmax does double duty at 77 WABC radio, and he does both with aplomb. Now, his style is somber, correct, and understated while remaining extraordinarily natty. Whether it's in a navy blue blazer with what the English call odd trousers of gray flannel, or one of his impeccably cut but understated suits, whether he's out on the town or behind the microphones, Greg Kelly, who favors a slightly wider necktie, is always an impeccable man of style. Pierce Brosnan. Here's one I think you're really going to like, Troy. The James Bond actor turned November man's appearance at Wimbledon in 2024 was absolutely iconic. He apparently raided the wardrobe before he left the set of the Bond films, and he has kept it to himself. This is his first year on my international list. It will not definitely be his last. Julia Garner. This blonde bombshell seems to be able to slip into anything and make it a masterpiece. Last year, we lauded her for her Barbie-esque outfit at the Golden Globes. This year, she's favored more of an open shoulder ensemble that are both reactive yet conservative at the same time. To Julia Garner, I say, bravo. Congressman Corey Mills, you know him, Troy. The congressman from Florida's 7th District is by far one of the snappiest dressers in Congress. Yeah, he's a combat veteran, but he doesn't need to impress people, yet still he does. Mills does not spare any expense either. I've noticed that his suits are hand-tailored and of the very best fabrics. But whether you find him at a barbecue or cook-off in Sanford, Florida, not only will he eat, but he'll be dressed just like the rest of us. In other words, Corey Mills gets what I said earlier. Always dress for that activity in which you are about to engage. Now, speaking of liberals, there is Florida State Representative Anna Eskamani. Her politics are not mine, but again, this list isn't about politics. In fact, she's far left, but her wardrobe is always right. This Iranian immigrant is almost always working on affordable housing and a fair minimum wage, but that doesn't stop her from dressing to the nines. While Hillary Clinton probably forever ruined the pantsuit, Eskamani pulls it off with ease. This is her first year on the list, but is probably not her last. When it comes to her clothes, well, Troy, she means real business. Let's see, Sid Rosenberg's another one of my favorites. Now, Sid favors Joseph Abboud sports jackets and coats. He hits the streets or the sports bars or in international travel, yet he wears Joseph Abboud a designer who knows how to build clothing to accentuate Sid's athletic build. He always looks great. This is his first year on the list, most definitely not his last. John Yapo, he's a political fixer in my home state of Florida, but he knows how to get down with the get down, as they say. You can catch him at any of the appropriate water holes in Tallahassee. But one thing he understands, style over fashion. He's appeared on my best dressed category contender. And now, after his second year on the regular list, he could be a serious contender for the Hall of Fame Style Icon Award status next year. Now, Troy, we get to your favorite subject, those who are worst dressed. And as I go through these, Troy, you're welcome to chime in because I know you have some strong opinions. Who could be worse dressed than Sean Diddy Combs? Now, these days, he's probably in an orange jumpsuit. But if you've seen him in the past, this guy who has unlimited funds has clearly not spent them on clothing. We're talking about days leading up to his arrest, which of course he knew was coming. Imagine being with someone with this kind of immense fame and wealth, yet no taste whatsoever. He steps out for a night on the town wearing what looks like kind of a half-rate painter's workwear. The jacket, if you could call it that, he looks like he could have been dressed like a medical examiner in all white. Puffy couldn't even bother to conceal the drawstrings and sported a black t-shirt. That's the kind that someone would buy at a gas station near one of those motels outside of LaGuardia Airport. You get those t-shirts for $20, I believe. At any rate, at least he wasn't walking around with a bottle of baby oil in his hand. Troy, your thoughts on Sean Diddy Combs?
Well, Roger, I guess maybe his hands are slippery and it's hard for him to go to the store and try things on because he gets oil and everything, something like that. But the guy, I think when we look at his dress, he kind of fits into that category, Roger, of people who think they're above style. And I think we see this. People get enough money, status, they believe that they're really above the trends or even looking presentable. And I think this is a phenomenon that we see throughout this list. People who have the means to dress better, but they simply refuse to do that. Is this laziness, Roger, do you think, or do they have this kind of maybe confidence that they can make anything look good? What is the deal with people dressing like they're homeless, worth billions of dollars? It's crazy.
I think in his case, it's a fundamental lack of taste. Now, I will admit, I've occasionally seen him in a dinner jacket, which the regular people call a tuxedo. That's actually a misnomer, by the way. The dinner jacket, known popularly as a tuxedo, comes from Tuxedo, New York. You see, prior to that garment emerging among the well-to-do, people wore a swallowtail coat, sometimes known as a morning suit or a white tie and tails, and everyone dressed for dinner. The tuxedo, as we know it in the United States, was actually a move towards informality for the upper classes. Now, getting back to our worst dressed category, who could be worse than Ellen DeGeneres? By the way, she said she's leaving the country. I just want to let her know that Troy Smith is available to drive her to the airport if she needs a lift. This disgraced TV show host is never known for her style, and 2024 has marked a low point for her. She claims that she's leaving, but I don't know if she's already gone. When she's not on TV, she can't seem to find anything to wear except for hoodies and sweatpants. There's a time and place for such attire. It's called the gym. It's almost as if she raided a teenager's closet rather than attempting to dress with any class or purpose. Troy, after the show, I'm going to send Ellen your phone number just in case she needs a lift to the airport.
That's perfect. And I will be in full suit and tie. So I guarantee you I will be better dressed than her when I pick her up from the airport. And or drive her to the airport there, Roger. And I want to add there, this is a person who was vicious to her staff. And I want to float the theory. Perhaps there is an angry stylist somewhere who has been mistreated, who laughs every time she dresses Ellen in this ridiculous attire. I mean, seriously, she looks like the Paddington Bear, for Christ's sake. It's unbelievable.
Well, if I see the video of her dancing with Michelle Obama one more time, I think I might puke. You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, the three people dancing.
Then there's this guy, Sam Smith. Now he's, I guess, a musician. He does have some musical talent, but his attempts at high fashion, or dare we say daring, well, they're daring if they're supposed to be daringly grotesque or absolutely vomit inducing. This guy needs to decide whether he's going to dress in men's clothes or women's clothes. Unfortunately, this once promising musical talent is far too caught up in the zeitgeist of outrage and blasphemy. Perfect example of how the entire trend towards transgenderism has made compiling this list even more difficult. Billie Eilish. Now, it would be easy to trash Billie Eilish for her disdain for Donald Trump, but again, our list is not about politics, it's about style. It may be a surprise to some of our watchers that, well, I actually like her beats. She's a talented entertainer, but she gets the worst dressed clarification here because the way she dresses is actually a crime against good taste and style. What in the hell are you wearing, lady? It's almost unbelievable.
Well, and Roger, she is wrapped up in a culture of this group of people, and they're particularly women that dress in these large, oversized clothing, and it's to me a breakaway. It's almost like a look at me type thing, and I think the purpose of it almost is to look disjointed like that. And I would hope that that's something that we see fade away, because in 2024 I've seen enough of it already. We've seen enough of the outrage. It's almost just ridiculous at this point.
Now, no list of the worst dressed in America would be complete without a nod to United States Senator John Fetterman. If Ellen DeGeneres comes back to the United States and got elected to the U.S. Senate, she and Fetterman could form the Hobo Caucus. I understand that Fetterman's a big guy, but that's no excuse to dress like a slovenly bum. I mean, this guy wears sweatshirts, hoodies, but it's the cargo pants on the floor of the United States Senate that I most object to. You know it's bad when Steve Bannon looks like he's straight out of GQ magazine when compared to Fetterman. Please, please, Senator, you've been making sense more and more in some of your public statements. Could you please invest in just one properly tailored suit? Troy, your thoughts?
Well, Roger, I think John Fetterman is a very interesting case because he represents a group of people that have been, really beat down. And the sad thing is, Roger, that a lot of people don't have the money to go out and buy a suit. And I know this sounds like crazy, but there's a lot of people, including people that are voters for John Fetterman, that go to work every day dressed like he does. And I think there's something to how he dresses that maybe the person that maybe can't afford a suit or looks at someone in a suit as some kind of a person that doesn't really work with their hands. They have a disdain for that kind of class of people. Maybe that's why he's trying to do that. But when we look at the U.S. Senate, just the fact that these people are supposed to be our best, to see him dressed like that in the Senate, I think is disappointing. And as you said, we have common ground that's being highlighted again and again. And he, I believe, will be forced to reckon with that as his voters are going to increasingly go towards Republicans as we move forward here and the Republican Party kind of reforms itself. But his dress is very interesting. And the fact that it resonates with people, Roger, is the more interesting part to me. I think it speaks to that classism that the left has been pushing for so long.
Yeah, I think it probably works back in Pennsylvania, but it's interesting. When Fetterman was elected to the Senate, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer passed a rule that loosened the requirements for what a senator must wear on the Senate floor. When Republicans overrode Schumer with a bill that said male senators were required to wear a jacket and tie, and female senators were required to wear a dress. Now, I don't know how Fetterman has dealt with that, but perhaps, as I say, the way he dressed maybe plays in the streets of Pittsburgh, but I'm not sure it plays in the U.S. Senate. Here's someone, Troy, that you're probably more familiar with than I am, but Lil Nas X. He's a rapper. Now, I get that he's leaning heavily into this whole satanic shtick, which of course I don't agree with. But we've addressed before, there's merit in challenging boundaries and being proactive in your dress. Everyone should develop their own personal style. Not everyone should look like me or Troy like you. But with Lil Nas X, it's just outrageous for outrageous sake. Frankly, I find it boring and kind of weird at this point. His wardrobe's all over the place, dresses, oversized fits. Again, absolutely weird. He's done some of the most bizarre stuff I've seen. I think it makes people say WTF, because we can't use the real words here, too many times to count. Please, please, Lil Nas X, wear something tasteful at least once.
Well, and Roger, I want to add here too. There's a line here, and there's always been a line. And I wanted to ask you, in the 1950s, Elvis Presley really was a style icon in the way he dressed, and he used a lot of colors that at the time men really didn't use a lot. So you had a lot of pinks and these highlights, and a lot of them was flashy. And I want to compare that to Lil Nas X because in my estimation, this is a guy that goes way over the line into where it's not stylish or classy, it's just plain weird. And I wanted to ask you about how Elvis Presley kind of navigated that line between maybe things that would be considered more feminine colors and things like that, and then how Lil Nas, it's a completely different ballgame. I'd like to see it more go back to the old way of things. It's a much better way of doing things, no?
Well, Elvis went through various periods. So early in his career, he went to the famous country and western tailor Nudie in Las Vegas. Now, Nudie made outfits for Dolly Parton. She made outfits for most of the best known country and western stars in the country. And Nudie made Elvis's early clothing. But then Elvis originally was more like a rockabilly act. Then, of course, Elvis went through his great white fringe jumpsuit period where he wore that enormous belt and the long sideburns. There's the famous story, of course, about Elvis Presley visiting Richard Nixon in the White House. And it's interesting that after Elvis Presley met with President Nixon, a most improbable meeting. By the way, the photo of the president and the king together is the single most requested photograph in the National Archives. But after it, out on the walkway to the White House, surrounded by the media, Elvis Presley was asked, well, what did you think of Nixon? And Elvis Presley said, remember, he's wearing a white jumpsuit with fringe, an enormous belt, and huge gold sunglasses. Elvis Presley says, well, President Nixon's really a groovy cat. He dresses kind of funny. True story. All right, getting to the low point in our worst dress category, we'd really be remiss if we did not mention President Volodymyr Zelenskyy of Ukraine. Now, we've shipped this guy billions and billions of dollars, but he can't bother to wear a suit. He doesn't wear a suit and tie, wears a dirty sweatshirt when he goes to meet President Trump at the dedication of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. He doesn't wear a suit and tie when he addresses a joint member of a joint session of Congress. Yet he does wear a suit and tie when he goes to genuflect before Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. Frankly, I think it's disrespectful to the American taxpayers. Now, I get, like Fidel Castro in the 60s and 50s, that he's playing a role. In fact, I think he's actually an actor. I've seen some of his early comedy. It's pretty unwatchable. But he's an actor playing the role of a president at the behest of certain Ukrainian oligarchs. But still, if you're coming to the United States and you're begging for billions more, which President Biden has been shipping him as quickly as possible, another 5 billion just last week, you could at least wear a suit and tie. Troy?
Absolutely, Roger. I mean, you're talking about a leader of a country, and I think there's a lot of questions as to his conduct during this war. When you look at the way Christians have been treated in his country, and I think the idea where he's playing this role of a guy at war, it's not very believable. First off, and second off, it's not really paying off. I don't think that his act is really going to have any longevity here, and I actually see him becoming more and more irrelevant. I've always believed that Ukraine was an excuse for people like John Kerry, whose stepson is involved with businesses over there, and people like Hunter Biden involved with businesses over there. It's been a pit of corruption for a long time, and the fact that there's there's billions of dollars running through this place, and the guy can't afford a suit. It's actually kind of a perfect example of why Ukraine and the money we send over there is completely useless. It's laundered and it's pushed through different entities, and a lot of it is brought right back to the politicians here in the United States. I think that under the Trump administration incoming, Roger, we need a comprehensive investigation and maybe even find out why Zelenskyy there doesn't have a suit to his name.
Now, any worst dress list would be incomplete without the inclusion of Dr. Jill Biden. At this point, it would be very hard to convince me that her wardrobe isn't made up entirely of clearance window curtains and marked down tablecloths. Jackie O, the best dressed and most chic first lady since Melania Trump replaced her, must be rolling in her grave every day as Dr. Jill rolls out of bed to put on another one of these shocking outfits. Yet she was on the cover of Vogue, while Melania Trump, one of the best dressed women in the universe, was not. So the list isn't political. The international best and worst dressed never is. But that said, thank God we only have less than a month to see any more of her horrid outfits in the White House. All right, last but very much least, we have to mention my colleague, Stephen K. Bannon. This guy is the resident MAGA hobo. I swear to God, he is chasing down the homeless to get his wardrobe, or perhaps he bought it all at Goodwill. Now, as you know, Steve Bannon's been in our worst dressed category before. This year, perhaps he thought that by wearing an all black ensemble to the wonderful New York Young Republicans annual gala, that he could escape inclusion on this list. But no. I honestly think that Steve dumpster dives for his wardrobes. If this is an attempt to look like every man, well, sadly, he just looks slovenly. Sorry, Steve. I agree with you much of the time, but style is just not you.
Well, and Roger, I just one point on Steve Bannon too. It would appear to me, if he wants to do the all black look, it would not be that hard to get a tailored black shirt and a suit. And I don't know his situation, but even if it was a cheaper variety of suit, just having it tailored and fitted, it would look so much better. I just don't understand. Uh, First, there's a weird thing with the collars. There's multiple collared shirts going on. I've seen it before where he's got like polos on top of button ups on top of another button up and a jack. It's just bizarre. It wouldn't seem that difficult to put together if you want to go all black. To do that, and the way he's got it set up, it just makes absolutely no sense. It's actually dumbfounding to me to look at some of the things that the man puts on his body. It's like, how do you arrive at that? It doesn't even make any sense, Roger.
Well, you also have the question, Troy, of grooming. I don't think I've ever done a show in which I wasn't shaved. But Steve seems to eschew hot water and soap as well. In any event, it is his style and dressed list. So that's it for this year. This list gets harder and harder to put together every year. As we await next year's list throughout the year, if you have recommendations, you can send them to us at stonezone.com. That's stonezone.com. So keep an eye out for those you think are the very best dressed, and also keep an eye out for those whose dress is an abomination. I'm very much open to your suggestions. Let me leave it at this one more time. While fashion is fleeting, style is timeless. And that is our 16th annual International Men and Women's Best Dressed List. All right, Troy, a little bit of time left here. Let's get into some politics because that's what people turn into the Stone Zone for. What do you got on deck?
Well, Roger, we do have politics on deck, but I did want to say, I actually have a bill here that I want to give you because you have cost me some money, Roger, because I went out and I picked up a copy of Stone's Rules. I read it, and after I read it, I went to this tailor. I got a beautiful custom blue suit, 3 pieces, everything, and I wore it out on the town. And not only was it ripped away from me, I had to run like Austin Powers. The ladies were chasing me. I had to run for cover, had to actually hire a car to come pick me up, and they ripped the suit to pieces. So I'm down a suit. I'm down all this, all because of Stone's Rules. Because in that book, you actually include your own style tips. Can you tell me about the process that went into forming these ideas, putting this all down? This is really a manifesto for style, isn't it?
It is, and I appreciate your bringing it up. This is a book that I wrote as an introduction with Tucker Carlson. Now, it's far broader than just dressing and style. In here, these are kind of like my rules of the road, things that I've learned in a 45-year career in American politics. Everything from how to budget a political campaign, how to design a website, or what the appropriate thing to wear to a polo game, or maybe any piece of advice in terms of diet, fitness, style, food. It's all there. You can get your copy of Stone's Rules. I believe it is stonesrulesbook.com, stonesrulesbook.com, and you can get an autographed copy if this topic interests you. This is kind of like Sun Tzu's The Rules of Law or Machiavelli's The Prince. This is my manual to life. Doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, a liberal or a conservative or a libertarian or a Green Party member, or maybe you're completely and totally non-political. Doesn't matter whether you're in fashion or tech or agriculture or retail for that matter. These are things that will help you on the job, help you get ahead. So again, we'll show you the cover, Stone's Rules, my book with a foreword by my good friend Tucker Carlson. There it is. And again, you can order your signed copy by going to stonesrulesbook.com. Troy, I appreciate very much your bringing that up. All right, we have about 12 minutes left to get into some politics.
Well, thank you, Roger. Heading into this next Trump administration, we have an unbelievable situation where people in government, Roger, that have been there for not just the last 4 years, but going back decades now, are kicking and screaming at the idea that they are going to be held accountable for their failures, not only for their failures, but for their corruption. And the reaction from these officials in Washington that have been really unchecked over the last 4 years is really shocking to me. We pulled a clip today that I'm eager to show you of the Postmaster General being questioned in the Senate. And they're bringing up the fact that the post office has lost billions of dollars every year, and it continues to lose money while outfits like FedEx and UPS and others are delivering faster and cheaper results of actual profitable companies, while the U.S. Postal Service costs the taxpayer billions of dollars per year. This is an unbelievable clip, Roger, because in this, the Postmaster General, when questioned about losing billions of dollars and his entire entity there really crumbling, he actually puts his hands on his ears and acts like he can't hear what the senator is asking him. Let's roll this unbelievable clip of this childish Postmaster General and get Roger's thoughts on the kicking and screaming that's going on from Washington officials who are going to face accountability when the Trump administration takes power in just a few days. Let's roll that.
You, sir, do not get an A grade. You cannot give yourself that grade.
I just did.
You can't. You can't grade your own paper, sir. I've been to medical school. Well, then, I got my MBA. You can't. I'm sorry. You were graded by the United States people, and they don't use your service anymore. You bankrupt.
That is not true.
You bankrupt this through your reputation only. Through your reputation, you are responsible for the fall of the Postal Service and the lack of accountability.
Congress is responsible for the fall of the Postal Service.
So it's Congress.
I am trying to fix
on your
the Postal
watch
Service.
With all the AI.
Before my watch, the same stuff happened.
With all the AI, with all the computer systems, you're worse than if I took a horse and picked up the mail and delivered it 2 miles down the road. That's you. I hope you got that on camera. This is the response that the postmaster just gave Congress when he doesn't like what he hears. Literally covered his ears and gave himself the grade of A. And with that, sir, I rest.
Good.
Troy, that's really something. But, the other thing that I saw that was kind of interesting was President Joe Biden giving Liz Cheney the highest possible civilian medal. I guess this is a warm-up for her indictment. Liz Cheney suborned perjury. Liz Cheney tampered with witnesses. Liz Cheney circumvented witnesses' attorneys to coach witnesses. And Liz Cheney herself perjured herself during the January 6th committee hearings. How else would you explain the fact that they destroyed all of the records? I think we have the clip of Joe Biden giving her this award. I think this is a hedge against her being brought to justice.
Cheney, for putting the American people over party. Christopher J. Dodd, for carrying the torch of public service.
Again, just speak to my own specific personal experience. It was Liz Cheney who coached Cassidy Hutchinson, a woman who was an aide to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who, by the way, went back and tried to change her official testimony not in terms of fixing grammar and punctuation, but change it materially to try to avoid a perjury rap. But it was Liz Cheney who, I believe, led Cassidy Hutchinson to say that she heard President Donald Trump instruct his White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, to call Roger Stone and General Michael Flynn on January 5th to, and then Cheney helpfully adds, find out what was going to happen on January 6th. I can tell you definitively that no such phone conversation ever took place. Troy, I've never communicated with former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who was not called to testify before the committee, on any occasion, not by email, not by text, not by encrypted message, not by telephone. I think I did meet him once in the green room at Fox when he was still a congressman. It was probably before Donald Trump was even president. Then Hutchinson goes on to say that Meadows was going to attend a meeting at a war room in the Willard Hotel, but that she dissuaded him from going to said meeting, but convinced him to call Stone and Flynn for a debrief on the meeting after the fact. Well, there's another statement of perjury. There is no such phone call because there was no such meeting. And as at least 3 sources told the Washington Post, if there was a war room in the Willard Hotel, I was never in it, and I have no knowledge of it. So we know that Liz Cheney circumvented Cassidy Hutchinson's attorney, Stephan Passantino. He has a complaint pending against Cheney to coach her in these lies. For Joe Biden to call her a hero, well, this is a preparation against a possible indictment. There is, however, one issue that we're going to explore here further on the Stone Zone next week. People need to understand that if there's an attempt to bring people to justice who engaged in egregious crimes, let's take John Brennan, the former CIA director. Watching him on TV yesterday talking about how Trump is a threat to democracy, given this guy's crimes, is almost laughable. But whether it is Comey or Brennan or Susan Rice or Liz Cheney, any Democrat or any member of the Obama or Biden administration who goes to trial in the District of Columbia, regardless of how strong the case against them may be, will sadly be acquitted. First of all, I don't know why we have a U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. That position is not codified in law anyplace. Matthew Graves, who has, I think, abused the January 6 detainees beyond all reasonable levels, has recently resigned from that position. Whether those who are charged with real crimes during the 4 years of Donald Trump's term or the 4 years of Joe Biden's term can be convicted in the District of Columbia, well, that's an open question to me. You may remember at the end of the Durham investigation, Durham took 5 long years to state much of which we already knew, that the Russian collusion hoax was the largest single abuse of power in the history of the United States, the greatest single political dirty trick. It was nothing less than the use of the full actual authority of the United States government and the extraordinary capability of our intelligence agencies to utilize 2 pieces of what they knew was fabricated evidence. The so-called Steele dossier, which was paid for illegally by Hillary Clinton and was a complete fraud, which claimed that Donald Trump, while a private businessman, had cavorted with Russian prostitutes in Moscow and had watched them urinate on a bed, a hotel bed once occupied by Barack Obama. Complete and total fiction. And they knew it. Andrew Weissman knew it when he was the general counsel of the FBI, yet he let it be used as the de facto head of the Mueller hit squad as the rationale for the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller. They also knew, and have no proof, that there never was an online hack of the Democrat National Committee. In fact, all of the forensic evidence and the expert testimony would indicate the contrary. The download times from the material stolen from the DNC or the Clinton campaign indicates that it was taken to some kind of hard drive, portable hard drive, and taken out the back door. Now, in my trial, federal prosecutors, when they were embarrassed by the fact that it was revealed that the FBI had never inspected the computer servers at the DNC, claimed in a very rare filing that they had additional evidence that the Russians hacked the DNC, but they couldn't release it because it was classified. They couldn't release it, Troy, because it doesn't exist. But for those who think that Democrats who committed these egregious crimes during the Trump administration or during the Biden administration believe that people will be held accountable, well, they won't be held accountable in the District of Columbia, where I don't believe there is a single judge who is not a rabid, open partisan, nor do I think a jury can be selected that would be fair and impartial. In my case, the jury forewoman swore under oath during jury selection and during the trial that she didn't know who I was, that she was unaware of the case against me. But we now know that for 2 years prior to my trial, she was attacking me by name regarding the very trial that she would be selected as a juror, indeed the jury forewoman in, and attacking President Donald Trump, proving that she had a bias. She went so far as to say that anyone who supported Trump was a racist. So on that basis alone, when that was discovered, my conviction should, at a minimum, have been thrown out, and I should have been afforded a new trial. That is not to say that I would have been acquitted in a new trial, because the judge denied me every possible line of reasonable defense. The judge denied us Robert Mueller's full unredacted report. She said she would read it in her chambers and give us the relevant sections. It wasn't until BuzzFeed sued the Justice Department and won that Mueller's final report was released. And then he could not even sugarcoat the fact that he found no evidence of Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any other crime in my case. So they tried to destroy me and my wife and my family to pressure me to testify falsely against President Donald Trump. Those who are saying that my pardon is similar to that of Hunter Biden are wrong. Hunter Biden actually committed crimes. I was charged with misstatements under the False Statements Act. But in order to be guilty of a misstatement under that act, your statement has to be willful and it has to be designed to hide some underlying crime, like Russian collusion or WikiLeaks collaboration, when no such crime exists. Let me leave you with this final thought, Troy. Roger Stone did nothing wrong. Folks, thanks for joining us today in the new year, the Stone Zone. So I'm afraid we're out of time. I'm glad to have Troy back on the show. Troy, you're going to have your own show at Worldview Tube. Tell us quickly about that.
Well, Roger, it's at 3 p.m. on Worldview Tube, and we are running, it's called Slingshot TV with Troy Smith. We have the full hour, but you can also find it on the Slingshot News Twitter, Slingshot News Facebook. You can also find us on Rumble and YouTube. We're pushing the show out everywhere, Roger. We've already started, so people can find that now, and thank you so much for the opportunity to promote that here and for having me back on. Great to be back on the StoneZONE in the new year.
So, Troy, I want to wish you the very best with your own show, but you're going to continue to share some of the co-hosting duties here. I'll always give you an opportunity to promote your own show because, well, you're a great journalist and you're a great guy, and I've appreciated your support all last year, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Roger.
All right, folks, that's it for Troy Smith and Roger Stone today here on the StoneZONE. Until Monday, God bless you and Godspeed.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?